The mimosas sparkled in crystal flutes. The Sunday brunch buffet stretched across my parents' dining room, eggs Benedict, smoked salmon, fresh pastries, fruit arranged in artistic displays. Everything perfect, everything elegant, everything designed to impress. Just like always. My sister Rachel's voice had dominated the conversation for the past 40 minutes, detailing every aspect of her new position as marketing coordinator at a local startup. The salary, $52,000. The benefits. The ping-pong table in the break room. The free snacks. My parents hung on every word like she was describing a Nobel Prize. And then Uncle Tom, my father's younger brother, the family accountant who actually paid attention, dropped his bombshell. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the hallway. Rachel's fork froze halfway to her mouth, a piece of quiche trembling on the tines. My mother's hand went to her throat, her pearl necklace caught between her fingers. My father's face drained of color so quickly I worried he might faint. I took a measured sip of my mimosa and waited. Uncle Tom, oblivious to the tension, continued enthusiastically. I was just telling Barbara, he nodded to his wife, how impressive it is that you've maintained those payments so consistently. $1,500 a month for 10 years straight. Never missed one. That's $180,000 in principal and interest, not counting the down payment. Your credit score must be phenomenal. Tom, my father said carefully, his voice strained, I think there's been some confusion. Rachel just got her new job. Maybe you're thinking of her future plans. Uncle Tom's eyebrows rose. I'm talking about Jordan. The house on Elmwood Avenue. The 3-bedroom colonial she bought in 2015. All eyes turned to me. I set down my mimosa with deliberate calm. You bought a house. Rachel's voice pitched higher. When? June 2015, I replied evenly. A 1,920 square foot colonial with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, hardwood floors, and a finished basement. I put down $62,000 and financed $248,000 at 3.75% interest. The numbers hung in the air like accusations. My mother found her voice first. That's impossible. Jordan, you can't afford a house. You work at that nonprofit. You barely make enough to live on. I make $71,000 a year at the environmental nonprofit where I'm the development director. Before that, I was the grants manager making $58,000. Before that, I was the grants coordinator making $45,000. I met her eyes steadily. But you wouldn't know that, because you've never asked what I actually do. You just know I work at that nonprofit. Uncle Tom shifted uncomfortably, finally picking up on the tension. Wait. You all didn't know about the house. No, my father said flatly. We didn't. But Jordan's been paying that mortgage for 10 years. She sent me the closing documents to review back in 2015. I assumed the whole family knew. Rachel set down her fork with a clatter. This is insane. Why would you keep something like that secret? Buying a house is huge. I didn't keep it secret, I said calmly. I told you. Multiple times. You just never listened. That's not true, my mother protested. We would have remembered. I called you the day I closed on the house. June 15, 2015. I said, Mom, I just bought a house. Do you remember what you said? Silence. You said, that's nice, honey, and then spent 30 minutes telling me about Rachel's new boyfriend. You didn't ask for the address. You didn't ask to see photos. You didn't ask a single follow-up question. My mother's face went pale. I don't remember that conversation. I do. I remember all of them. I invited you to my housewarming party in August 2015. You said you were busy helping Rachel move into her new apartment. I sent you photos of my renovated kitchen in 2017. You replied looks nice and changed the subject to Rachel's promotion. I mentioned needing to fix my roof last year. You suggested I call a handyman and then asked if I'd seen Rachel's engagement photos. Each memory landed like a stone dropping into still water, ripples spreading outward. Rachel's fiancé, Mark, looked like he wanted to disappear under the table. Uncle Tom and Barbara exchanged uncomfortable glances. My father stared at his plate. Jordan, Rachel said, her voice tight, if you felt ignored, you should have said something. You can't blame us for not knowing things you never clearly communicated. I communicated clearly. You chose not to hear me. I pulled out my phone, opening my text message history with the family group chat. Here. October 2019. I wrote, can't make it to Thanksgiving this year. Hosting at my house for the first time, so excited to use my new dining room. Mom replied, that's too bad, we'll miss you. Nobody asked about my house. Nobody asked to come to my Thanksgiving. Nobody acknowledged that I'd said I owned a home. I scrolled further. Here's another one. March 2020. Just refinanced the mortgage down to 2.875%. Saving $200 a month. Dad replied, good for you. That's it. No questions about what mortgage, what house, nothing. The evidence was undeniable, preserved in digital form. My family stared at the screen like it was written in a foreign language. Uncle Tom cleared his throat. For what it's worth, Jordan, I've always been impressed by your financial discipline. 20% down payment at 28 years old. That's exceptional. Thank you, Uncle Tom. I saved aggressively for 4 years. Lived in a studio apartment, drove a 15-year-old Honda, brought lunch to work every day. I wanted to do it right. $62,000 down payment, my father said slowly, his lawyer brain engaging. Where did you get that kind of money? I saved it. $42,000 from my savings, $20,000 from Grandma Chen's inheritance. My mother's hand went to her mouth. Your grandmother left you money. She left all 3 of us money. $25,000 each. I used mine for a down payment. Rachel used hers for, what was it, Rachel? A car and a trip to Europe. Rachel flushed. That was my choice to make. Absolutely. And I respected that choice. I just wish you'd respected mine enough to ask about it. The brunch had gone cold. Eggs congealed on plates. Mimosas went flat. The carefully orchestrated perfection of the morning had dissolved into uncomfortable truths. My father set down his napkin with deliberate precision. Jordan, I think we need to address something. If you felt overlooked, you should have been more assertive. You're an adult. You can't expect us to read your mind. I don't expect you to read my mind, Dad. I expect you to listen when I speak. There's a difference. I met his gaze without flinching. I've been assertive. I've shared information. I've invited you into my life. You've consistently chosen to focus on Rachel instead. That's not fair, Rachel snapped. I didn't ask to be the favorite. I know. And I'm not blaming you for being the golden child. I'm just stating facts. When you got your first apartment, how many family members helped you move? Everyone, Rachel admitted quietly. When I bought my house, a much bigger milestone, how many family members helped me move? Silence. None. Because none of you knew. Because none of you asked. Because I wasn't worth the attention. My voice remained steady, matter of fact. No tears, no anger. Just truth. Uncle Tom looked stricken. Jordan, I'm sorry. I thought they knew. I wouldn't have brought it up if I'd realized. Don't apologize, Uncle Tom. You did me a favor. This conversation needed to happen eventually. My mother's tears started flowing, mascara leaving dark tracks down her carefully made-up face. Jordan, we love you. We're proud of you. We didn't realize that I existed as anything other than Rachel's less interesting sister. I finished. I know. That's been clear for a long time. Stop being dramatic, Rachel said, but her voice lacked conviction. We're a family. We support each other. Do you? I pulled up my photo gallery, scrolling through years of images. These are photos from my life. My house. My garden that I planted myself. My kitchen renovation that took 6 months. My finished basement where I host game nights. My deck where I have barbecues every summer. My life, fully realized, in a space you've never seen. I slid the phone across the table. They stared at the images, a beautiful home, clearly loved and maintained, obviously lived in. A stranger's house, as far as they were concerned. 3 bedrooms, my mother whispered. You have 3 bedrooms. 2 are guest rooms. I host friends frequently. My book club meets there monthly. I had 12 people for Thanksgiving in 2022. 18 last year. My home is full of people who actually know me. Why didn't you invite us? My father asked. I did. In 2019. You all had other plans here. I stopped inviting after that. Rachel was scrolling through the photos now, her expression shifting from defensive to confused to something like grief. This is beautiful. Jordan, this is a beautiful home. Why didn't you make us pay attention? Because I shouldn't have to beg my own family to care about my accomplishments. The truth of it settled over the table like frost. Uncle Tom and Barbara began quietly gathering their things, sensing this was a conversation that needed to happen without an audience. We should go, Uncle Tom said. Jordan, if you need anything, references, financial advice, whatever, you call me, okay? Thank you, Uncle Tom. For everything. For actually paying attention. After they left, the four of us sat in uncomfortable silence. The grandfather clock ticked. Outside, birds sang, oblivious to the family fracturing inside. My mother spoke first, her voice trembling. What do you want from us, Jordan? Tell us. How do we fix this? I don't know if you can fix 10 years of neglect. I stood, collecting my purse. You forgot I existed except when you needed something from me. Someone to watch Rachel's cat. Someone to help with yard work. Someone to pick up last-minute groceries. I was useful, just not important. That's not true, my father insisted. Isn't it? Dad, when's my birthday? He opened his mouth. Closed it. Looked at my mother. It's July. August 7th. Rachel's is July 22nd. You've never forgotten hers. You forgot mine for the last 3 years running. The shame on his face was almost painful to witness. Jordan, Rachel said quietly, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't know you felt this way. You didn't know because you didn't ask. None of you did. You were all so comfortable with me being the supporting character that you never considered I might be the protagonist of my own story. I walked toward the door, my heels clicking on the hardwood floor. My mother followed, reaching for my arm. Please don't leave like this. Stay. We can talk more. We can do better. Maybe. Someday. But not today. I gently removed her hand. Today, I need to go home. To my house. The one I've owned for 10 years. The one that's appreciated to $465,000. The one that represents everything I've built without your help, without your knowledge, without your approval. Jordan, my father started. I have $142,000 in equity now. I refinanced twice to get better rates. My credit score is 812. I max out my retirement accounts every year. I have an emergency fund that could cover a year of expenses. I've built a life that's stable and successful and completely separate from this family. I paused at the door. And the saddest part? You're only just now finding out. I left them there, in their perfect dining room with the cold brunch and the uncomfortable truths. Drove through familiar streets to Elmwood Avenue, to the house I'd bought with my own money, my own credit, my own determination. Inside, my home welcomed me with warm light and the smell of the lavender sachets I kept in every room. Photos on the walls showed my real life, friends at dinner parties, hiking trips, volunteer events at the wildlife sanctuary, my book club dressed as literary characters for Halloween. A life rich and full and completely invisible to my family of origin. My phone buzzed. Text from Rachel, can I come see your house sometime? I'd like to actually know my sister. Another from my mother, I'm so sorry. We failed you. Please give us a chance to do better. One from my father, you're right about everything. I'm ashamed we didn't see you. Can we talk? I set the phone on my kitchen counter, the kitchen I'd renovated in 2017, with custom cabinets and quartz countertops and professional-grade appliances. Poured myself a glass of water from the filter I'd installed myself. Stood in the home I'd built without them. 2 months later, Rachel visited. Just her, no parents, no fiancé. She walked through every room slowly, taking in the built-in bookshelves, the art I'd collected, the garden visible through every window, the life I'd cultivated like the roses in my backyard. I've been terrible, she said finally. I've been so focused on my own life that I never considered yours was just as full, just as important. I know. How do we fix this? I don't know that we do. Not completely. But maybe we start small. Maybe you start asking questions. Maybe you start showing up. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a beginning. My parents came the following week. My mother cried when she saw the photo wall, 10 years of memories they'd missed. My father stood in the backyard, looking at the vegetable garden, the flower beds, the pergola I'd built with help from friends they'd never met. You did all this alone, he said. No. I did it without you. There's a difference. I had help. From people who cared enough to show up. They couldn't argue. The evidence was everywhere, in the beautiful home, the thriving garden, the life so clearly well lived. 6 months later, I refinanced again. Paid off the remaining $68,000 balance. Owned my home outright at 38 years old. When I called to tell my parents, my mother answered on the second ring. Jordan. How are you? How's the house? Small progress. But progress nonetheless. Uncle Tom sent flowers. The card read, "Congratulations on paying off your mortgage. Your grandmother would be so proud." I certainly am. I put them in the living room where I could see them every day. A reminder that someone had been paying attention all along. That my accomplishments mattered, even if my immediate family had been too blind to see them. Ownership has a name, mine. And now, finally, everyone knew it. The mortgage was paid. The equity was substantial. The life was full. And for the first time in 10 years, my family was actually asking to be part of it.